are live. We are live. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Ring the notification bell. Share the video if you want to support this college football's Rebel Outpost with a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Hit that dollar sign where you make a comment, and I'll get to you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. I decided to do a late Saturday night is all right for college football's PATC, Peek Around the Corner, to get our minds off of what is going on in the real world just for a little bit. And the cold, the sleet, the rain, the ice, holy smokes. Tomorrow in Minnesota, I had to put the old Gopher sweatshirt on. I had to put it on. It's freezing in the studio. It is freezing all over the place. Tomorrow in Minnesota, the high will be -9. That is not wind chill. That is not the low. That is the high temperature. -9 degrees. I hope all of you south from us, which is all of you who are south from us, I hope you are surviving. I hope you get through the night I know I've been watching the weather reports. The model have changed a little bit where people are going to get the snow, where people are going to get the ice. There is some optimism. I think it's around Nashville. They believe they're going to get a whole lot more snow than they're going to get. They're going to get less snow and less ice because the temperature is dipping down into Nashville. Whatever. I hope all of you survive. Look out for your neighbors. Look out for your friends. Look out for your family. Get everybody through the night and through tomorrow and Monday. And I guess your weather is going to be pretty cold throughout the next week. I know ours is. It is bone chilling out there. It is absolutely bone chilling. And I am not doing well. Look, I'm the fat guy from Minnesota. I was born, bred, and I will be dead in Minnesota. I got enough blubber. You'd think I would stay warm. You'd think I'd be tough. I used to play broom ball. I fractured my elbow in 3 different places playing broom ball. You'd think I would be tough. No. I am not tough at all. No, the Minnesota winters, they bury me because of how early they begin and how late they end and everything in between. It absolutely buries me, Minnesota weather. I love the cold. I love the snow. Well, MBM, your cheese have slipped off your cracker a long time ago, my friend. A long time ago. Broom ball, one of the greatest games ever invented. You buy some broom ball shoes. Back in the day, back in the 80s, back in the 90s, they were basically white shoes with an orange sole, and and it was like suction cups. You can run on the ice way better with broom ball shoes than with ordinary boots or shoes. It's broom ball. You play out there with a broom, not a real broom, but a stick that is shaped like a broom. It's usually an orange stick, at least back in the day. And then you would play with the ball. A ball about that size. And you'd run up and down the ice. You would have the goalie, same rule, basically the same rule as hockey, but broom ball. I played in a Minneapolis league. I shattered my right elbow into 3 different places. It's a long story. Anyways, but I cannot handle the cold anymore. The older I get, the worse I get. I understand Minnesotans moving out of the state as you get older. We did a early peak Cloak and Dagger episode this morning. We released episode 63. So if you are a member, go back and watch episode 63 for members only, early peak Cloak and Dagger. If you want to become a member of our program to get the early peek on some nuggets of information we receive, go to the description box below the video, hit the link, and become a member. But we talked about relationships still matter in realignment. We went through the Dabo Sweeney 8-minute speech on the tampering, the alleged tampering of Ole Miss going after one of his players. After that happened, after that was released, after Dabo Sweeney went up there on the stage, I'm not going to go through his speech during this live show. You can go find it. He was in front of the microphone. He talked about all the things that had happened with Ole Miss, Coach Golding of Ole Miss, going after a guy that's already been in classes, who had signed and everything. I'm not going to go through that again on the live show. But after that happened, I got a couple of communications from a couple of people behind the chatter behind the curtain, and it was Clemson did themselves good. It was a very good Dabo Swinney moment. Now I've gotten a lot of feedbacks. Oh, it doesn't matter, Greg, and Dabo Swinney's a swine, and Clemson's football program's on the downhill, and he's on the hot seat, and they cheat. Clemson cheats. They tamper. All right. I hear you, and I'm going to hear more of that tonight, and I get it. Like Dabo Swinney says, there's tampering 101, and then there is tampering. Right? You go after a guy who's committed to a program, you're kind of tampering, right? You go after a guy who has signed a rev share contract, who's in classes, who has a scholarship agreement, and you're calling him while he's in class. That is tampering. That is way and above and beyond what 95% of the football programs are doing out there. And Dabo Swinney's putting that out there. Other coaches have done the same thing with less fanfare. Dabo Swinney went out there. Now, why is this? What does this have to do with realignment? You know, it may not end up doing anything with realignment. It probably won't affect realignment at all. Probably, but maybe. You see, there are certain rules in realignment. One is that realignment never sleeps. Two, the biggest dominoes fall first. North Carolina, Notre Dame, when the next go-around happens. And number three, relationships matter. They can be the deciding factor on where teams end up. Yes, there's way more. There's a lot of important factors that go on and who is a candidate to go to the Southeastern Conference, who is a candidate to go to the Big Ten, who is a candidate for the ACC to possibly poach from the Big 12, who is the candidate from the ACC that the Big 12 could possibly poach, who is a candidate of one of the G6 schools that could jump in and backfill in the ACC, backfill in the Big 12. There's a whole lot of things that go into it, right? Market size, location, geography, institutional fit, football program, valuable program or not, facilities, how big the endowment is, what type of research do you do. There is so many things that play into conference realignment. But one of the ingredients that is in every single realignment, every single one, is relationships. Relationships matter. They do. It mattered when Oklahoma and Texas got together and they called the Southeastern Conference. It mattered that when USC called the Big Ten, that a whole lot of people in the Big Ten, the money purchase, they supported that move. They were on Kevin Warren's you-know-what to get that done. Relationships matter. TCU into the Big 12. The relationship with Texas. Relationships matter. Colorado being at the center of the stage in the Holy Smokes Theater. We knew that they were the tip of the spear. They were the school that Brett Yormark was going after first, not because they were more valuable than Arizona State, Arizona, and Utah, because the relationship was there. And they were going to crack that open, and then the rest would follow. Relationships matter. We do know, and let me get more to it. Let me get to the super chats here. Carson 3692 $2 holla, $2 holla. We are live. We are live. Thank you for the $2 holla, Carson. I appreciate your generosity so very much. Thank you very much, Carson. I appreciate it. And we got another super chat, this time from Jacoba Cat super chat. Big Ten contracts have more teeth than ACC? I don't know. That's a good question. I have no idea. And I'm guessing that at some point the courts are going to tell us whether these contracts have any teeth to them. I don't know. I do know that the Big Ten has a certain template, but not all the Big Ten contracts are completely similar from each other. I believe it was Christy Dosh out there who did who analyzed. There was a difference between Washington and Minnesota and how their contracts work when they were looking at the Demond Williams situation. So not even all the Big Ten contracts with their players are similar. And I'm guessing that not every contract within one team is similar to all their players, because again, a lot of these players have got reps and they're negotiating with the team and they're asking for this. Some of this is being taken by, it's a negotiation that's going on. It's a heavy-handed negotiation, heavily in favor of the institution, unless you're one of the top players. So I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question, Jacoba Cat. It seems the perception right now is that Washington Huskies contract had some teeth in it. That the quarterback, Williams, did sign a rev share agreement. But you know what? The courts possibly could have thrown it out. I do not know what type of contract Darren Mensah had. I guess it was a 2-year contract. Part of it was a rev share agreement. Part of it NIL. But I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I do know that the understanding among this association of 68 schools is that the contracts would be binding and that the schools would not be going after each other's players after they've signed the rev share contract. That we know. We know that. Not every school is abiding by that. And maybe some of those schools had their own players poached, or at least an attempt to tamper with their own rev share signed players. I don't know. But I would tell you relationships matter. And we're going to get in more of this in the back end of the monologue. There's another story that I want to get to that has to do with realignment. A story that has flown under the radar a little bit. I want to get to that. It has to do with the G6. And then we're going to get back into this relationships matter. We do know that the whole Wisconsin-Miami kerfuffle with their safety. We do know that the Big Ten put out a big old statement that said they're back in Wisconsin and they didn't like what the Miami was doing on this. And okay. And now we've got the situation with Darren Mensah in Miami and Duke. And I have yet heard, and let me know if I'm wrong, I haven't heard Commissioner Phillips state anything on this, right? Duke has sued Darren Mensah, there's a restraining order. I think there's a court case that's been moved up to January 27th or 28th. It was February 2nd. Maybe it's January 29th. We'll cover that as the days go on next week. But of course, Duke's perception is that we've got him under contract. And if he leaves, he's in the portal. He's officially in the portal. But if Darren Mensah leaves, we still, Duke, own his NIL, his name, image, and likeness rights, because basically he signed them over to us. We paid him a lot of money. We're planning to pay him a lot of money this year. And the rev share money, a certain percentage is going to Darren Mensah. And that money's not going to other student athletes at Duke's athletic department. So I believe that Duke is doing something that 95% of the programs would be doing. They lost their big-time quarterback the last day of the portal, and they believed they had him signed. In fact, Darren Mensah himself said about a month ago, "I'm coming back, baby," in public. If that happened in Minnesota, if that happened to Rutgers, if that happened to TCU, if that happened to Oklahoma State, if that happened to Texas Tech, if that happened to Florida State, if that happened to Clemson, if that happened to Boston College, if that happened to Pittsburgh, I believe they would all be doing the same thing Duke is doing. I don't know if it's going to be successful or not. And if it is going to be successful, I don't know how successful it's going to be. We're going to find out together. But, you know, the relationship between Duke and Miami, again, one particular case is not going to blow up the ace. You know, it's a serious thing. Duke is pissed. Miami might believe they're in the right. They might believe that everyone else is doing this. Whatever. But again, relationships matter. And when Dabo Swinney came out in public and said what he said, a whole lot of people cheered him on. A whole lot of people cheered him on in college football. Because one angle is Dabo Swinney says, basically, come on, this is utterly ridiculous. And it is. He even brought up maybe we have to have student athlete become employees. Maybe we need a college, maybe we need a collective bargaining that leads to a collective bargaining agreement. A lot of people were cheering Dabo Swinney on. But there's another element to all this. Who can you bleep and trust? Who can you trust? What relationships have you built? One of the things that I've learned when we headed in to the Florida State and Clemson court case against the ACC, Florida State filed first, although technically the ACC believed they filed first. Whatever, it's all done with. There was a settlement. Then a few months later, Clemson filed the suit against the ACC. And what I learned from chatter behind the curtain, and I reported it immediately to you all. I reported it immediately. I said, not only are the court, the case is different, that Florida State is handling it one way and Clemson is handling it another way. The people in the room at Florida State are completely different than the people at Clemson. Neither of them is more correct than the other. Neither of them is better than the other. But they are different animals. We talked about it. I did not really know the difference, but I was told straight away with no hesitation. I was taught, somebody sat me down and said, this is Florida State and this is Clemson. Completely two different universities. And I'm not elevating one above the other. I'm just saying They're completely different. One is that Clemson, when they run their board meetings, when they do anything, it is all button up. It's about as professional environment as you can possibly get in any of these board of trustees, board of regents, board of visitors, whatever you want to call them. Their board, they run it like a machine. They run it like a true commercial enterprise. It is, they're all buttoned up. And the way they filed their court case against the ACC, they kept it very narrow. Clemson just wanted to be able to talk with anybody about possible realignment. Anyways, I don't know why I went down that pathway, but I just wanted to bring that memory back to you all. When Dabo Swinney got up in front and talked with everybody, he reminded, now, again, people are saying, great. Don't you know that Dabo Swinney went after the head coach, the new head coach of Ole Miss? That's not good for Clemson. What are they doing? What is Clemson doing going after Ole Miss like that? What is Dabo Swinney doing bringing the receipts? Great. If this is about, it's about doing the right thing. But if you are talking about how relationships matter, how could this possibly help Clemson? It did. At least that's what I was told immediately after this happened by more than one chatter behind the curtain person. Because first of all, in the Southeastern Conference, they're trying to get everybody to, the Southeastern Conference is threatening to go in their own silo, correct? They don't believe 68 teams can govern themselves at this point, correct? The Southeastern Conference wants to govern their own, correct? But they know they've got schools in the Southeastern Conference doing things they should not be doing. But they also don't trust the schools in the Big Ten to be doing what they should be doing, or the ACC or the Big 12. So they're really not even governed. Everyone's handcuffed because they believe the CSC is going to be doing all the investigation work and they're going to be coming down, and some of that probably will happen, but not to the point where we need it to happen, right? So there were even people in the SEC who knew what Lane Kiffin was doing at Ole Miss. They knew what they were doing at Oxford. And now finally someone slapped somebody down in the Southeastern Conference, and some people in the SEC thought kudos to Dabo Swinney. If the Southeastern Conference is going to go in their own silo, they're most definitely going to expand. I happen to think they're going to expand anyways because I have been told this this is what we believe. We have very strong indications that they're going to expand for all the reasons that we have put out over the last 3 years. Nothing imminent, nothing done, nothing signed, sealed, and delivered. I don't even think there's been any negotiations between any SEC and any schools. But there's been a lot of data and information passed back and forth. But if the Southeastern Conference is going to go in their own silo, what schools are they going to add? I believe that North Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, and Clemson are the top targets of that. I believe the Southeastern Conference is going to do the big scoop. I could be wrong. It could be a smaller scoop. I believe the Virginia thing has become a lot more complicated for the Southeastern Conference. We're not going to have to go through that tonight. But the Clemson piece, Clemson has, now look, Clemson is an incredibly valuable football program. A crazy fan base, a big fan base that buys tickets, that buys merchandise, that travels. Fantastic fan base. Fantastic football program. And no, this year is not going to have any wet blanket on Clemson's. No, that's just not how it works. But Clemson is not a perfect fit into the Southeastern Conference. They're not. They're not a perfect fit into the Big Ten. They're not. They're not one of the top 2 targets for the Big Ten. I believe they're not one of the top 2 targets for the Southeastern Conference, although with the Virginia situation, maybe Clemson is number 2 on that list. But just because you're not one of the top targets doesn't mean you're not going to end up in one of those conferences. Clemson isn't quite the fit in the Southeastern Conference that I believe that many people believe they are. One of the reasons I say this is because South Carolina is way more valuable than most people outside of South Carolina perceives they are. South Carolina, the University of South Carolina, the Gamecocks, Upstate, Columbia, it's a very valuable football program. They have a big fan base, and they have money in that area. And it's a very good school in comparison to some other schools in that region, but South Carolina is really valuable. It's a growing state. It is growing like crazy. Clemson has more value than South Carolina outside of the state of South Carolina. The Clemson brand, the Clemson football program, Clemson athletics are more valuable in Atlanta than South Carolina is, and it's not even close. So Clemson can bring more value to the Southeastern Conference. It's just you're comparing Clemson to other potential candidates. So because of that reason, Clemson isn't quite the perfect candidate, but hardly anybody is, right? But they're not quite the perfect candidate. But it's one hell of a football brand. It is. It's very valuable. Clemson, of course. And you've had people. You've had national college football reporters. You've had pundits when they're talking about realignment. And they usually say about Clemson, yeah, well, they're just not going to quite add the value as a North Carolina, as a Virginia, because of South Carolina. You know, you're not really increasing the footprint, but they are a very valuable school. And a lot of that is correct. But I do think the addition of Clemson would help the media partners be able to take in some other schools that do not have that big football value. I believe the addition of Clemson would, that fan base of the Southeastern Conference, they travel. I think that's going to put even more increase. I think that's going to get the tickets even more valuable, the merchandise, the sponsorships. Same thing with the Florida State Seminole fan base. I think they would be an addition to the Southeastern Conference, just like Clemson. Okay. I'm bringing all this up because if the Southeastern Conference is going to expand like I believe they are, and if they go in their own silo, which is a possibility, a growing possibility. I don't think it's the chalk yet, but it's a growing possibility. The Southeastern Conference are going to add schools that add value and that they can trust. That they can trust. If you're going to bring a school into your silo, you got to be able to trust that school. You got to be able to trust that leadership. You got to be able to trust that president. You got to be able to trust that culture. You've got to be able to trust even some of their biggest money purchase. the people on the money perch. You got to be able to do it. The presidents have got to be able to see a university as a university. You got to be able to trust them that they're going to grow the research. The Southeastern Conference wants your school to grow research. Clemson has a plan to get to AAU by 2035. Don't know if they're going to get there, but you've got to have trust that Clemson or any other school that you add is going to follow the damn rules in the Southeastern Conference. And Graham Neff, Dabo Swinney did Clemson good yesterday because he proved that they'll come out and they'll say it. Look, this is what happened to us. And it happened by an SEC school. And I have no doubt that Dabo would come out there and say, this happened to us from a Big Ten school. This happened to us from a Big 12 school. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the Southeastern Conference wants. And this is what the Big Ten wants. Now, let me go to the Big Ten ledger. Clemson is not a perfect fit for the Big Ten either. They're not really a Big Ten university. Not yet. Not the endowment, not the research, not the faculty, not the type of research, the location. Again, the Big Ten wants to get to the southeastern part of the country. The Big Ten desperately wants to get to the southeastern part of the country. They want to become a true national conference. They want to get into, to help their demographics. And there's basically not a whole lot of better places to go than to the state of South Carolina when you're looking at a growing population. A recruiting base in the state of South Carolina. But Clemson is not a perfect fit. They're just not. Now, the Big Ten has added schools before that were not quite the perfect fit. Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, wasn't quite the perfect fit. Oregon wasn't quite the perfect fit. Clemson is a little bit more not quite the perfect fit for the Big Ten. But if you look at the list of candidates for the Big Ten to expand into the southeastern part of the country, I would not have Clemson as one of the favorites right now. I would not have them ahead of Miami. I would not have them ahead of Georgia Tech. I would not have them ahead of Virginia. But Dabo Swinney did good yesterday. Because the Big Ten, they're going to expand, and they're going to want to expand with institutions that they can trust. That whatever rules we establish, if we do our collective bargaining agreement within our own conference, is this school going to do an end run around our collective bargaining agreement? Are they going to still give players inducement payments? You are not going to be able to survive as a silo entity if you've got teams, universities, athletic departments running roughshod over the other schools and not putting their own guardrails on their athletic department. It's going to wreck your conference. If you're going to go your own way, you've got to have all your schools aligned. And if you're going to add schools, these are new schools. These are new schools that somehow you're going to have to trust. And Clemson did themselves good yesterday. And people noticed it, and people commented to me, people in the industry. This is something that the Big Ten and the SEC are looking for. This is a particular important point going into the next round of realignment. Relationships still matter, and they probably matter even more than ever. If these conferences go in their own silo, you got to be able to trust each other. You got to be able to trust each other. And we'll get to the other part of this picture in a moment. We'll get to the other part of this picture in a moment. The picture on the left is Ole Miss and Clemson. The picture on the right is the Big Ten and Miami. We'll get to that in the back half of our monologue. But first of all, I want to get to another story that we got to get to that sort of flew under the radar. Again, we're just talking a little bit realignment on a very cold, wintry, snowy, icy January 24th. Buckle up, stay warm, and we've got another super chat from the one and only Jacoba Cat. Invisible Archon Alien Support Conference Realignment for more big game matchups to concentrate our emotional energy. We are food. Prove me wrong. I'm not going to prove you wrong. I'm not going to prove you wrong. Jacoba Cat, thank you for the $5 holler. I very much appreciate your generosity. Very much appreciate your generosity here on a very cold Saturday, January 24th. Let me get to another story here, but first of all, let me just go through a quick roll call here. Big Gun Shop is in the house. Hey Wabbit is here. John Dry, Bruce Harris, Bob Swanger, CFP Plus is here. Nick Kelsel is here. Bobby Hansen, Jack, Parr, D. It's a late PATC night. The King Frog, isn't a 24-game playoff good for the Big 12? I think it is. 24-team, 23-game playoff. I think it is a good idea. John Dry's in the house. Daniel Gorby is here. 72 in Naples right now. My goodness. Phil Sorensen is in the house. David Sabanash is here. MBM 357 is in the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Numbskull News. We are frozen here in Fort Worth. Temperature is in the teens. I hope you get through this, Numbskull News. Praying for you all at Texas. A lot of bad weather. You guys are getting hit. The other Gygax, 52 and foggy here, Greg. What's the temperature right now? The temperature right now, -9. -9. That's the temperature. And I heard that the high tomorrow is going to be -9. Well, that's wrong. No, it's going to get warmer than that. Anyways, it's -9 right now where I live. The studio's freezing cold, and we're just going to make it through it. 12 degrees here in Cincinnati, Greg. Amazing Blue. Helmer Hennison Super Chat. Helmer Hennison Super Chat. I don't know what that means. W/UVA Blue, who makes SEC Big Scoop? I'm not sure what that means, Helmer Hennessy. In my prediction on April 9th, 2025, it was a prediction. It was not a report. I had North Carolina, Virginia, Clemson, and Florida State. Just a prediction. Thank you for the $2 holler. But the Virginia situation is a lot more difficult for the Southeastern Conference. A lot more difficult. On a scale, it's way more difficult. Good luck, Southeastern Conference, if that is truly your goal. 10 degrees here in North Texas. I think he means Virginia leadership changing, who replaces Virginia. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole tonight. It's a good question, though. It's a good question. But thank you, Helmer Henderson. I appreciate the super chat. I don't really have an answer for you right now, to be honest with you. I have not really changed my prediction yet. Possibly Duke. All right. Let me go into something here, and then we're going to go into the second part of this picture. We're going to go to the right side. We talked about Ole Miss and Clemson. The other part, relationships still matter and realignment, is the growing complicated relationship that the Big Ten and Miami has going forward. But first of all, I do want to talk about North Dakota State. Now, we talked about North Dakota State, a couple of years ago, last year. I reported that North Dakota State they made the decision internally that they wanted to move up to the FBS, but they did not want to, if they could avoid taking a spot in the MAC, if they really wanted to get to the Mountain West, that was their desire, but they have not been able to get there yet. North Dakota State Athletic Director Matt Larson says football program still eyeing move to the Mountain West. As you all know, North Dakota State Bison football, the football brand is the most valuable brand in FCS. Along with the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, the Montana schools are very up there, but North Dakota State football brand is the highest, the biggest in FCS. Now this is from Chris Murray, Nevada Sports Net. When the Mountain West was forced to rebuild its membership in fall of 2023 after the loss of 5 schools to the Pac-12, the conference internally considered dipping in to the FCS rankings, but opted against it. Instead, the Mountain West added UTEP as a full-time member, in Northern Illinois, they poached the MAC as a football-only affiliate to get to the desired 9 football programs starting in 2026. One of the most attractive schools at the FCS level is North Dakota State, which has won 10 of the last 15 national titles at that level. Wow. Yet Bison Athletic Director Matt Larson, and this is the PATC money shot of the article. Bison Athletic Director Matt Larson said neither he nor the university president David Cook has received a call from the Mountain West. No, they have not called Dr. Cook or me. The Mountain West hasn't called the president. They haven't called the athletic director. It always starts. Now, the school, of course, can call a conference, they have to call the conference, really, if the other school is in a grant of rights agreement. But it really starts off with the school calling, the conference calling the school. And that hasn't happened. Still, Larson says that North Dakota State is desirous and working to jump into the FBS. And while that effort is not limited to potential inclusion in the Mountain West, and that is PATC money shot number 2. And while that effort to jump into the FBS is not limited to potential inclusion in the Mountain West, that fit made the most sense when the conference lost 42% of its membership 28 months ago. But again, it did not happen. It did not happen. So North Dakota State, if they're still serious, would they take a MAC invitation at this point? I would say in terms of our position, I think both myself and President Cook, we want to play at the highest level. Larson told Izzo, and right now the highest level is FBS football. And so, I think the things that we've done over the course of the last decade have positioned us to be able to do that. And if there's an opportunity, and I think something we would absolutely explore, if there's not an opportunity, we're posed to continue to compete in an FCS at a really, really high level and compete for championships. So, I would say in terms of our position, it hasn't changed at all, and our interest of at least exploring that is strong as it's ever been. Strong as it's ever been. So, whatever you take away from this article, North Dakota State is still driving to get to the FBS. There's a lot of hurdles in their way, but they're striving. They're still going towards that more than ever. Mountain West Commissioner Gloria Navarez was complimentary in March 2025 of the top schools in the FCS, but said her conference resisted dipping into the pool of candidates because of uncertainty on whether they would be approved to compete in the FBS. Would a North Dakota State be approved if the Mountain West wanted to go in that direction? FCS has some amazing programs, ones that could come in immediately and be in the middle of the league, if not higher, and be competitive, Navarez told NSN last year. The issue for us right now is that it's a 2-year waiting period, and there's significant political headwinds about expanding the membership of FBS, not adding FCS. So again, there's a lot of political headwinds within the membership of all FBS. Don't bring in more members. We are 136. Don't bring in more. Not adding FCS. More about, hey, how many schools do we need in the FBS? And do we need more? And so our concern was, even if we committed to an FCS now, that would be a great match and contribute in 2 years if the rules change and they couldn't be a member anymore. Our options were available to us to stay FBS, and that's where we wanted to stay today. So basically, too many political headwinds currently to add a North Dakota State. However, does that change in the future? Maybe. But in this environment, we just didn't know. North Dakota State is not the only FCS school looking to join the FBS. Sacramento State applied for inclusion and was denied by the NCAA because it did not have a conference to play in. UC Davis is joining the Mountain West in all sports but football in 2026. But investing in that sport has its first right of application among FCS schools looking to join the Mountain West in football. Wyoming Athletic Director Tom Berman has stumped in favor of the Mountain West adding FCS schools, naming North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Montana State, and Montana. Larson says he understands the constant questions he gets from North Dakota State fans inquiring about a move to the FBS. I would love to give you a different answer at some point of, hey, it's never going to happen, or we got an invite and we're going, Larson told Izzo. I think the reason I get asked that is the same reason there's a level of interest on campus is because of where our football program, what we've been able to accomplish collectively as an institution, as a fan base. All those things, and looking at potential upside, I completely get the questions. And I don't get frustrated by them. I get frustrated by not having a different answer. Can you blame North Dakota State? They've won 10 out of the last 15 FCS national championships in football. They want to go to the FBS. North Dakota State won its first FCS title in 2011 and reeled off 5 consecutive championships to 2015. It also won 3 straight titles from 17 and 19 and did it again 21 and 24. The Bison were the number 1 seed in this year's FCS playoffs before being upset by the national runner-up Illinois State in the second round. Since 2011, North Dakota State is 198 and 22. 198 wins, only 22 losses. And 105 and 12 in the Missouri Valley Conference. Routinely sending players to the NFL and having its coaches poached by FBS jobs. Larson said that he and his staff are working hard to make their case for a jump to the FBS. And finally, in the article, what I would say is if being engaged and vocal on social media got you what you wanted, well, shoot, everybody would do it all the time, Larson's told Izzo. But how is the success rate on that? I think we've been very thoughtful in our investment, in how we've invested, in how we position ourselves. And honestly, I think North Dakota State is attractive for a lot of reasons. My job is to position North Dakota State for the best possible future success we can have, and we are doing that every single day. So there it is. I just thought it was important to bring that up. North Dakota State has not given up the fight. My question is, if the MAC conference, the MAC, the Mid-American Athletic Conference, if they wanted to gamble and give an invitation to North Dakota State, and if the MAC was okay with the gamble, with the risk of North Dakota State being denied in this process that takes a while, if the MAC conference was willing to do that, would at this point, would North Dakota State take the offer? Or are we still in this game of North Dakota State hoping beyond hope that the Mountain West Conference finally pulls the trigger on their own big scoop of a South Dakota State, North Dakota State, Montana State, and Montana? It seems, it's always has been seemed, that North Dakota State would only jump to the FBS if they could go up a couple of rungs on the ladder. Going from the Missouri Valley Conference to the MAC, going to the Missouri Valley Conference to Conference USA has never interested North Dakota State. But is it time that North Dakota State should be interested in that? Should they give up on the Mountain West Conference dream? That's the question. And it wasn't really answered in this article, but there did seem, there was some teasing of the fact that North Dakota State hasn't given up and they're going to be looking at options other than the Mountain West Conference. But let's not get it twisted. The Mountain West Conference is still what they want to accomplish. They think that is the best fit. And of course, if they come into the FBS, they want to come in at the highest level possible. And the Mountain West Conference they're not going to get any higher than that coming on in. But are they willing to go in lower if they can't quite get to the Mountain West Conference in the next couple of years? That's the question. The moderator, the one who rules with an iron fist, Maria Hernandez Garcia Flugar, is in the house. Hola, hola. Little General, thanks for sharing Greg the Gold with all of us college football sickos. And of course, Maria says, not a problem. Yeah, we're doing a late night show here. We're doing a late night. We're just going to, everybody's freezing at home across the country. So we thought we would entertain you all with this show. We are going to open up the phone lines here in a little bit. We're going to open up the phone lines here in a little bit. Thank you, Carson, Jacober Cat, Hammer Hennison for your donations. I appreciate it. Okay. So, the first half of the monologue, the first third of it, we talked about the picture on the left, Clemson and Ole Miss. We also discussed that on our early peak episode 63, which we dropped earlier this morning. If you're a member of our program, go give that episode a watch. If you want to become a member of the program, go to the description box below the video and hit the link button. Now we're going to go to the picture on the right. Miami sitting on the couch on the phone. There is a Miami football game on the old television. And there is the Big Ten lady standing over the Miami Hurricane, wondering what is going on. There has been no bigger proponent of Miami going to the Big Ten than this guy. Really. When Miami, we've been saying that Miami has been one of the top targets of the Big Ten since we opened up the Holy Smokes Theater for the very first day. All the information that we have received here at PATC, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Virginia, those are the top targets. And then Miami is next. And we have very good reasons to believe that the SEC is the chalk of where North Carolina is going to end up, or in a reimagined ACC. The Big Ten ain't going to give up that fight until it's all over. So if you take North Carolina off the board, if Notre Dame is sitting there not willing to get into the mix yet, Miami quickly climbs up the target list for the Big Ten. Everything about Miami is Big Ten. Everything. The university, the research that they do, the location Miami is where the Big Ten can diversify their demographics. The national advertisers love Miami. I could go on and on. If Miami was in the Big Ten, it would help the media. It would help the media part of it, and the Big Ten presidents would most likely sign on aboard that addition. There's a lot of things to like about Miami. Plus, you look at the possibility of Miami coming in and having that dynamic tandem of Miami and Florida State. If the Southeastern Conference chooses not to take Florida State, that dynamic alone would be incredibly valuable to the Big Ten. It would be, I believe, and others as well, a blend that the Big Ten presidents could make happen. Having said all of that, and I still, look, BTM and his associates, BTM, who has helped me break a lot of news stories over the last decade, BTM, his prediction is that Miami would be a Big Ten school in 2029. I gave you that story 2 years ago. It's still true. But I got to tell you, Miami seems to have taken a path of we are completely committed to winning football games. Completely committed to elevating our brand even more by being in the national title race. And they've done a whole lot of things right. Look at what that program has done. Look at the boosters who have helped that program. Look at the Mario Cristobal, the coaching staff, the athletic director, and the players that they brought in and they developed in the recruiting success. Malachi Tony, true friend. The success at Miami is endless. Getting Corey Heatherman in as the defensive coordinator. Miami's doing it right. And this whole thing about the disagreement between Wisconsin and Miami, that did not help. I mean, it helped Miami a little bit, but that's not why Miami went into the championship game. It's because Miami has made a whole lot of successful decisions along the way. They earned that championship game. They've earned all those playoff victories. The thing about Darren Mensah, and we still don't know all the ins and outs of it, there's going to be a court case. There has been more questions brought up. Would this be something that would really affect how the Big Ten looks at Miami as a candidate? Because relationships matter. The Big Ten sent that letter in support of Wisconsin, and it was a pretty scathing letter about Miami. Those Big Ten presidents are going to want to trust Miami if they brought them into the conference. They would want to trust Miami that they would follow all these rules in the Big Ten. Now, Miami they have been following the rules, right? I mean, they're not an outcast of the ACC. There really has been no infractions. They didn't do what Michigan did. There's been a whole lot of scandals at Big Ten. But when you're trying to come into a conference, you got to dress up a little bit better. You got to say, you're trying to date the daughter, and you got to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am to the daughter's mother, and you got to say yes, sir, no, sir to the daughter's father. You got to be just a little bit better, right? Miami gets in this kerfuffle with Wisconsin. Okay. I don't believe there was really any damage done. The Big Ten was pissed, and maybe they still are, but that ain't going to be enough to keep Miami off the candidates list. But now what has Miami done in their own conference? That Darren Mensah thing, Duke is a team in their own conference. I would tell you that has raised a few eyebrows. That is something that Miami, should they be even going down that road? Because relationships matter. Trust is going to matter in this next round of realignment. That's a question I have for you. The answer I've gotten back is Miami does not want to have this reputation when they're going to be having these first party talks with the Big Ten. The Big Ten is going to want to trust Miami in following the rules. You know, the Big Ten might have their own collective bargaining agreement. Oklahoma just hired an athletic director that specializes in private equity, that specializes in collective bargaining. We might be moving in that direction. The Big Ten might have to go in its own silo. It might not be able to play any SEC teams or ACC teams or Big 12 teams. And the Miami edition would be wonderful for the Big Ten. But they got to know that the Big Ten, there's going to be some agreements in the Big Ten that isn't going to be like part of some legal beagle stuff. It's like, we are an association. We've all got to agree with these ethical rules. Michigan in-person scouting, that wasn't good. And I know a lot of Michigan people are still upset with me. Tony Petitti did what he had to do. He had to slap it down. A lot of people don't think Tony Petitti did enough. A lot of people think he did too much. I think he did basically what he had to do. My opinion, not shared by a lot of you. But if the conferences are going to govern their own, they first want to have schools that they can trust. Is Darren Mensah is the juice on Darren Mensah worth the squeeze down at Miami? Is it? Is Darren Mensah, very good quarterback, is he worth the squeeze? I don't know. I really don't know. We're going to find out in the court cases. We're going to find out in the courts. We'll see where this goes. I'm assuming, this is a guess on my part, that some money is going to go over to Duke and Darren Mensah is going to be the starting quarterback Miami, and Miami's going to be happy. And they're going to say, look, it was all worth it. It was all worth it in the short term. It was all worth it. If we win an ACC title, if we go win the whole thing, look how more valuable we are to the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten. Maybe that is the route that Miami should be taking. But relationships still matter. And if you're pissing people off along the way, you might not be able to get to where you want to go, no matter how many football games you win. Duke is doing something that 95% of the other schools would be doing. They believe that Darren Mensah was under contract, but they also believed that other schools would not be going after him because he's under that contract, a 2-year rev share contract. They believe that everybody understood the rules on this. Dabo Swinney, same thing. He believed that everybody should understand There's tampering, and then there's a level that you should not go to. The 68 schools, they're trying to govern themselves, and it ain't working. So if these conferences go in their own silo, you got to have schools that you trust. Now, time heals all wounds. So does wins, by the way. But time heals all. I think Florida State and Clemson, I think them going to the courts, suing the ACC, that kind of ruffled the feathers of ESPN and Fox. That ruffled the feathers of the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten. They don't want their own schools challenging what they got set up. But over time, those rough edges have probably most likely been smoothed over somewhat. And anything Miami does now, or they feel that they're doing it right, but other schools think they're doing it wrong, those rough edges will probably get smoothed out over time. But don't ever forget that relationships matter. If you can look at there have been so many decisions made on the golf course, at the bars. So many decisions have been made at the highest level of college sports in where the relationship of the two people talking, that was the last thing, the last hurdle that they had overcome, and they got it done. So don't make it more difficult on yourself. Don't make the trip, don't make the adventure, don't make the challenge more difficult on yourself. Read the room. Dabo Sweeney did good. Is that going to really help Clemson when it comes to the first party talks? I don't know, but he did good. And it was openly discussed by those that chatter behind the curtain. Once the industry, the ones who report on college football, they believe that Clemson made a stand and they've got a chance to benefit from making that stand. Okay, we are going to go to your phone calls. If anybody wants to talk about anything in college football that your heart desires, we decided to come on here late on a Saturday night. Saturday night is all right for PATC because, well, a lot of you are stuck at home trying to survive the cold, the wind, the ice. I hope you all are taking care of each other. 763-260-1333, 763-260-1333. Talk about anything college football that your heart desires.
From
Rick?
Rick is on the line. Go ahead, sir.
I can't let a weasel in the hen house.
Yeah, I mean, it's even more scary if you are going in your own silo, if that happens. Right?
Well, with that being said,
yep.
What if NBC still wants them?
Then that's not a problem, right? I mean, that would be something in their favor, big time, right?
And that's really, in the end, what matters, because as much as you'd like to think that some people are deciding all of this, there are a lot of people that are deciding all of this.
Go ahead and repeat that again. The last part.
Well, I'll rephrase it. It's more than just the Big Ten that's deciding who's going to be added to the Big Ten.
Yes. I agree with that more than ever. And that also helps Miami.
Very much so.
Yep.
Very, very much so.
Yep.
The order, the pecking order after, well, Notre Dame number one, North Carolina, but they're spoken for. Then comes Miami. Who are the next three?
Who are the next three after Miami?
Correct.
Boy. On this late Saturday, January 24th, I would agree that other than like Notre Dame, North Carolina, Virginia, in the next batch is Georgia Tech, Miami. I would even include the possibility of Duke, the possibility of Utah, the possibility of Kansas. I think that's the next batch.
You'd put Virginia ahead of Miami? Equal to?
Yeah, I would say possibly equal to.
I guess the last question would be, do you think there's any way South Florida could replace Miami? They don't carry that baggage. They bring you Southern Florida, big city of Tampa, St. Pete.
Yeah, I don't think so.
The good academics and the research.
Yep.
They're
Yeah, they bring a lot of good things, no question about it. But I think there would have to be some sort of testing ground for South Florida for them to be even ever considered to get to the P2. I don't think you go from the American to the P2. I don't think there's any way they would jump ahead of Miami, and I don't think they would jump ahead of pretty much every school I just named. And that's not a shot at they got a very good shot to get an opportunity to prove themselves at a much higher level here.
And with now basically the Big Ten and the SEC are going to reconsider the CFP expansion next year, right? December.
Yeah, they're going to have 10 months of discussion, and I don't remember the date, but it's sometime December 2026 is the deadline.
They do it all over again.
Yeah, they're going to do it all over again. 10 months of talks.
But by that time, North Carolina will be right on the cusp of making a decision.
I believe so. Yes, sir. I believe so. I believe so. You got it, buddy.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. We got a super chat, and I don't really understand it. You are ignoring Ohio Nathan Shapiro. I don't even know what that is. Thank you for the $2 holiday. Some of these super chats today, I don't even understand what you guys are saying Maybe it's me. I don't know. Maybe the cold has gotten affected my head. Navin Shapiro, I apologize that I'm ignoring Navin Shapiro. I don't know what that has to do with anything we're talking about, but has been. Let me know in the chat room what am I missing. But thank you for the $2 holler. Thank you for your support. I very much appreciate it. I mean, Rutgers went from the American to the Big Ten. Yeah, that is true. I don't see USF jumping to the Big Ten. Rutgers would not have been able to make it in the Big Ten if North Carolina and Virginia would have, North Carolina, Virginia, or Georgia Tech would have taken the invite at that time. But now everybody sees the money gap, the growing gap, the Big Ten. There's too many schools that would take the Big Ten invite before it got to USF. Again, not a shot at USF. I happen to think they're higher on the totem pole for G6, higher than Memphis to get to the ACC once the ACC gets poached. We got a big old super chat here. Understand this. Go Pokes, MBM 357. I'm understanding. In fact, I've been taking a lot of shrapnel. I've been taking a lot of hits because I do understand Oklahoma State. Because I predicted them. Look, my way too early, I got them number 22. Do you know much? I've been dragged over the coals because of this. People are calling me a Oklahoma State Cowboy homer because of this. They think I'm a lunatic. They think I'm Greg the Kula. But I'm not. That's the point. This year, 2026, I'm not Greg the Cooler. I'm Greg the Gold. So MBM, I do understand this. Go Pokes. Go Pokes. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful generosity. Thank you, MBM, for helping us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Yes, we did talk about Dabo Sweeney's press conference. We talked about it in an early peak episode 63 from members. You can go watch it. We actually replayed the press conference. We're not going to do that tonight. But yeah, we talked about it. And we right away when that happened, I got a couple of different communications from people behind the curtain. They said, whoa. Dabo Sweeney did this for a couple of reasons. One is to fend off poachers from his school. Let everybody knows that he's going to, if he has the receipts, Dabo Sweeney's going to come out and put it and lay it on the table. That's the number one reason he did it. But there's a backstory to all this. Clemson is showing that they can be trusted by other SEC schools, by the Big Ten, who's been trying to be a stickler on these. So it was a very good day for Clemson. That is my opinion. It is shared by others. You can think I'm absolutely crazy, but I think it was a very good day by Clemson. Very good move. Canes are a lock for the Big Ten. They check all the boxes for the most part. How do Flugarians? Good evening, Big Papa Flugar. Vox Quindaro Rock Chalk Jayhawk is in the house. Go Black 45. ESPN wants into Florida even more, I believe. Interesting. BYU is not going to be left behind. Kansas is Big Ten. I only see Georgia Tech to the 12 if the Big Ten doesn't take them. But they are hell-bent in getting into the South. Yes, they are. Big Ten is. I never saw California in the ACC, but college football threw logic in the trash. CFB Plus answering Go Black 45. I think whoever is available from the ACC in regards to Duke, Georgia Tech, maybe even Syracuse is more valuable than USF. UConn may be more valuable because of the new market. Go Black 45. If the Big 12 was smart, they would take Virginia Tech, Louisville, North Carolina State, USF. If you have a chance to double dip in Florida, you have to take it. Interesting comment by Go Black 45. Culture doesn't matter when money is on the table. Indiana shocked the world. Arnagad. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. All right. Doesn't look like we're going to get any more phone calls. I do appreciate Rick giving us a call. Again, we did this live show on a late Saturday. Oh, here we got one. We actually got one.
Call from
Tristan Fives.
Tristan 5, the floor is yours. Let it rip, sir.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it, buddy.
Hey, listen, I wanted to follow up on this North Carolina chalk that you mentioned earlier. Is it your opinion that if and when the SEC expands, you were talking earlier, and I mean earlier, like 6 months ago or a year ago, about the big scoop. Right? I mean, they would try to do 4. Or is that still your idea, or do you think they're just going to do 2 if they make a move?
The Southeastern Conference?
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to go ahead. Look, I don't really have. I'm going to go ahead and stick with what I said on April 9th for now. But I think it's less of a chalk than ever, right? I think we're almost at 50-50 land, in my opinion. I think there is the growing possibility that it won't be as transfer. A lot of this depends. So the new ingredient that has been thrown in the soup is this silo thing, right?
Right.
So if that gains more and more traction, then everything I said on April 9th, and again, it was a prediction, not a report, right? I don't have any it's going to happen, because they're not down to that level yet. But if the silo thing gains more and more traction, I'm going to have to reevaluate certain things. Let's put it that way. So I'm hesitant to even answer your question, because things are different now than they were April 9th. No question about it. And this small scoop might be more in play for the Southeastern Conference if you do not have this college football playoff expansion happening in the next 4 years.
Yeah, and I have always thought that the 2 at a time idea was the most likely, because the last 3 expansions for the SEC have been by 2s, and it just seems like that's easier to take them in pairs. 4 is just too much upheaval, I think. And so with that being the case, if apparently Virginia's out as far as the SEC goes, or they may not be out, but like any short-term possibility seems to have eroded, right?
Yeah.
So then if it's going to be 2, and then if you think that North Carolina is going to be one of them, I guess the logic at this point is that the other one will be Clemson. Is that, if they were to go with 2 and one of them was North Carolina, do you think the other one would probably be Clemson, or do you think they might go in a different direction?
I think the Clemson North Carolina thing is very viable. If it's a small scoop, I think this is what you're asking, right? If the
Yeah.
Virginia thing is just too difficult politically just for it to happen, I think the North Carolina Clemson thing is very viable.
Okay.
If it's a small scoop situation, I think that's got to be one of the options.
Right. Yeah. I think you're probably right. I think that would be, if it were to go down that way, I believe that it would be because North Carolina was requesting it. Because I think if ESPN and or the SEC had their druthers, they would probably want to get that second school in Florida before getting a second school in South Carolina. That's just my gut feeling. Or possibly even contemplate, if you're going to get a new state in North Carolina, what about Kansas, right? That's a new state, basketball blue blood, helps fill out the West a little more. It seems like there's better choices than Clemson, in my opinion, and it's not a knock on Clemson. But, if that's what you got to do to get North Carolina, then you do it, right? But that's how I would interpret that, is that North Carolina's requesting it.
Yeah.
And listen, I wanted to mention this too. How fitting was it that Indiana beat Miami? Because Greg, when we were talking earlier during the season, and I was making the point, we were agreeing about this. In the age of NIL, all the P2 schools are one hire away from fielding a strong playoff contender. And Indiana not only made the playoff last year, but then took another step forward and won the whole thing.
Yeah.
And hey, listen, if they can do it, anyone can. And the example I was given was, saying all the way back in the 80s, Miami. Miami was an up-and-coming program. They had no real history to speak of, and they beat Nebraska for the national championship, who was a major power at that point.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
And now it's a 180, right? Miami is the major established program, and Indiana came out of nowhere. And it was a great game, but they won it. They definitely were the better team. And I'll tell you what, if they can hold on to Kurt Cignetti, Greg, I'll tell you right now, he'll get 3 national titles before Kirby will.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
I'm making that prediction right now.
Okay.
He will win 3 of them before Kirby does. He's only one behind. And listen, the quarterback that he just coached up won the Heisman, is probably going to be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
And he's setting up a situation in Indiana, and they've got more work to do. It's not like it's a done deal. But Greg, he's getting situated to where all he's got to do every year is reload. It's going to turn into, if he can keep this momentum going, Indiana is going to turn into a very similar to Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best you can do. It's just, hey, listen, we reload. We get the best receivers, get the best quarterbacks, get quality everywhere else. We coach them up. Man, Indiana, the Penn State folks must be going out of their minds thinking about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they had pulled the trigger a year earlier and hired Cignetti, or 2 years earlier, whatever the timing was, if they'd have hired that individual, it would have been them hoisting a national title right now.
Yeah.
So, anyway, listen, I appreciate you taking my call, Greg.
You got it, buddy.
Keep up the good work.
I appreciate you giving us a call, sir.
All right, take care.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much. Beautiful. Got a couple of great calls tonight. Great call. Again, if you're new to the channel or if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe and ring that notification bell. Earlier this week, we did a breakfast live show. Tonight, we're doing a late night show. And we do shows all the way anytime during the day or night, we can pop on live here to cover a breaking story or for us to give you some intel information that we have received. We talk everything in college football. This is a national college football show. This is the Rebel Outpost for college football fans. We take phone calls. We do everything here. We sing. We make our predictions. We do a spotlight on every team during the off season. We cover everything politically, off the field, on the field, everything college football. So come join us. Become a member by going to the description box below the video and hitting the link. You can get the membership only episodes. We dropped episode 63 earlier today. We also have episodes for everybody to watch. We dropped a big one yesterday. Mike Babinski, Purdue Athletic Director, I think that was episode 469, and that is for everybody. So go to our library of episodes, watch all the episodes and live shows going past the last 4 years. I want to thank you all for joining us. We've got Helmer Hennison, Super Chat. $2 holler. If the Southeastern Conference goes in a silo, Notre Dame more or less likely, Big Ten, more likely. It definitely isn't less likely. You know, the question is it more likely or is everything going to stay the same for Notre Dame? Did I say North Dakota? Notre Dame, more or less likely, Big Ten, more likely. Because if the SEC goes silo, then it becomes more likely the Big Ten goes silo. And now what is Notre Dame going to do? Anyways, thank you for the $2 holler, Helmer Hennison. I very much appreciate your generosity, Mr. Helmer Hennison. Go Black 45. Trust me, I can tell you the Southeastern Conference wants Kansas for more than their rivalry with Mizzou. To have Kansas, Kentucky, UNC, maybe Duke in one conference, Sankey would probably consider better that than Roy Kramer. Wow. Membership has its advantages. Yes, it does. Become a member of our program. Go to the box below the video. There is a link provided. Become an early peak Cloak and Dagger member. Again, I want to thank you all for joining us. We've been on the air for over an hour and a half. Again, buckle up, brace for impact. We're going to be providing videos and live show tomorrow, Sunday, January 25th. So if you're cold, if you need some entertainment, if you want to talk some college football, subscribe and ring the notification bell because we're coming back tomorrow. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family,